Hello, Da Vinci. Welcome back. This is our Wednesday, the 27th of January's lesson on SPaG. So we're back on our SPaG. So what you're going to need for this is you're going to need your pencil and some paper, or your whiteboard and your whiteboard pen. That's what you're going to need for this. And we're still talking about verbs. Now, last lesson was a little bit tricky, but we're still going to be able to talk about verbs, looking more into them now. So what's a verb? Well, it's an action or something that you do, okay? So all of these are verbs. And can you think of any more? So I'm going to go through some. So eat, that's a verb, you do it. Stand, so if I stand up, that's a verb. If I sit, that's a verb, I'm doing something. If I run, or if I wash, if I drink, if I sleep, and if I shout, they're all verbs, as well as whisper. That's a verb. Now, these are all the verbs there. Can you think of any more? You might have thought of dance. That's a verb. You might have thought of jump. That's a verb. There's lots of different ones. So let's go through some examples for today. Last lesson, we were looking at how to write verbs in the present tense, which tells us what is happening right now. The children run to school. That was what was happening right now, okay? The children run to school. That was what is happening, okay? Today, we're going to be looking at the past tense, which tells us what has already happened. So what did you do yesterday? Talk to your Teddy. What did you do last week? Talk to your Teddy. Answer those questions. It's important you answer these questions because it'll help you understand. What did you do yesterday? Turn to your Teddy and say what you did yesterday, okay? Once you've done that, you would have had to answer these questions using verbs in the past tense. So let's have a look at our verbs, but in the past tense. I played on my computer. I jumped on the trampoline. I listened to some music. I watched the TV. Can you find the verb in each of these sentences? I played on my computer. I jumped on the trampoline. I listened to some music. I watched the TV. What are the verbs? Well, the verbs are here. I played. To play. I jumped. I listened. I watched. What do you notice about all of these verbs? Played, jumped, listened, watched. What do you notice? Every single one of these verbs that are past tense end in an ed, which means that it is past tense. I play, I played, happened. I jump, I jumped, it's already happened. I listen, I listened yesterday, it's already happened. I watched yesterday, it's already happened, okay? So let's now move on. It's the ed. A lot of verbs add the suffix ed or ed, okay, to write about the past. Sometimes it sounds like they have added a T, so you need to be careful. So sometimes it depends on how you say words. Instead of it being I watched, some of you may say I watched, and it sounds like you've put a T at the end, and it's not. It's added an E and a D. So you just need to be careful because it's never usually adding a T at the end. So let's go through some examples. We're going to write the past tense of each of these verbs by adding the suffix ed. Now, suffix means you're adding something to the end of the word, okay? So we're adding ed to the end of the word. So wait is going to become waited. Look is going to become looked. Open is going to become opened. Need is going to become needed. Rain is going to become rained. And clean is going to become cleaned. Because they're all things that have happened. Now, look and looked. Looked. It sounds like I'm adding a T to the end. I'm not meaning to, but that's how we say it. And it sounds like I'm saying, oh, I looked over there, but it's actually looked, and it's an d sound. Doesn't mean that we say it as an d, but when we write it, it's an e and a d sound. So I'm going to read through these. And what I'm going to do is we're going to, remember when we did it last week, we moved it into the start, whether it was right or whether it was wrong. We left it where it was. It would bounce back if it was wrong. So we're going to say whether it's correct or not. So I want you to, let's make this a little bit fun. I want you to stretch up really tall now. So stretch up as high as you can. And then I want you to touch your toes if you think it's correct. Or I want you to put your fingers on your ears and stick your tongue out if you think it is not correct, okay? So touch your toes if you think that the words are written correctly or the sentence is correct, and then put your fingers on your ears and stick your tongue out if you think it is not correct. So the first one I'm going to read. My dad cooked dinner. My dad cooked dinner. Is that right, touching your toes? Or is it wrong? What do we think? Is it right, touch your toes, or wrong? Should we find out? Let's see. If it stays and disappears, then it's right. My dad cooked dinner. Yay! My dad cooked dinner. That's spot on. So you should have been touching your toes there. That's a correct sentence. We made it past tense. I eated all my lunch. That's a tricky one. I eated all my lunch. Does it sound correct? If so, touch your toes. If you think that doesn't sound right, fingers on your ears and stick your tongue out. I eated all my lunch. Should we say? It is not. The past tense of eat is ate. And this is how you write it. It's a. I ate all my lunch. This is one of the examples where eated, where you add an e and a d to a word, it is not make sense. So you need to make sure that you're listening really carefully to see if it sounds right. I eated all my lunch is wrong. So I'm going to put a cross through that word because it should be I ate all my lunch. Yesterday, it snowed. Does that sound right? Touch your toes? Or does that sound wrong? What do we think? Yesterday, it snowed. Well, that one, to me, sounds like it might be correct. It is correct. The past tense of snow is snowed. Well done. I celebrated my birthday with my family. I celebrated my birthday with my family. Does that sound spot on? Touch your toes? Or does it sound wrong? What do we think? I celebrated my birthday with my family. The word celebrate changed to celebrated. Correct? It is correct. Well done. My sister watched TV. My sister watched TV. Is that correct? Touch your toes? Oh, it's wrong. What do we think? Should we try? Let's see whether the toes touching is correct. It is wrong. Remember what I said, the word watch. Now, the word watch is one of those words that is, oh, where's that two come from? The word watch is present tense. Now, to make it past tense, you would need to add an e and a d on there. That is how we say it. I watched. I watched. I watched. That's how I say it. But it's actually spelt with an ed. Okay, I watched. Say it as watched, spelt it as ed. Okay, it's tricky to remember, but you have to remember that rule. Let's move on. Oh, too many slides. Not all verbs add ed. We'll be looking at some of those next lessons. So not all of the verbs add ed. Just like our eated, eat was not an ed word, was it? It was ate is what it became. So we're going to be looking at some more of those next lesson. Let's try some questions together. Which one of these sentences is correct? Is it Number 1, Bob saw his friends on the moon and wave. Is it question 2? Bob saw his friends on the moon and waved. Question 3, Bob sees his friends on the moon and wave. Question 4, Bob sees his friends on the moon and waved. Which one was it? Is it 1, 2, 3, or 4? Well, the answer for this one is going to be number 4. Oh, sorry. I don't know why I said 4. I was getting confused at why it wasn't working. Sorry, number 2. I don't really know why I did that because I was highlighting number 2. How silly of me. The answer is number 2. And the reason it's number 2 is because we can see here, Bob saw. Now, although we don't know that saw is past tense, it sounds different than see, sees. That's not past tense, that's present tense. To see, Bob saw his friends on the moon and waved. It's got that ed sound there. Ed, waved. And it's got a and a d to make it past tense. Spot on. Question 2. Answer 2 was the right one there, not 4. Answer 2. Right, so we're going to write this sentence in past tense. Bob something when they took his picture. So Bob smiles when they took his picture. How do we make that past tense? We make that past tense by, instead of smiles, it's going to be Bob. Let's make sure that my super handwriting is here. Are we ready? Let's see how well Mr. Watkiss can do. Bob Bob smiled when they took his picture. So you can see there, he smiles, Bob smiles at the camera. Bob smiled when they took his picture. That's past tense, it's already happened. Which words need to go in this sentence to make it present, to make it past tense, to make it past tense? Sorry, I've put present tense. It should be past tense. I'm very, very, very sorry. How naughty of me. Here we go. Let's change that. It needs to be past tense. Okay. So what words need to go in to make it past tense? The sun is shining. The sun was shining. Which one? The sun is shining. The sun was shining. If you were paying super attention last week, you'd know that is present tense. So my word must be was. The sun was shining and Bob played with his dog in the garden, or plays with his dog in the garden. Well, we know that it's that ed makes it so that it's past tense, so it must be and Bob played with his dog in the garden. The sun was shining and Bob played with his dog in the garden. Spot on. The sentence should be past tense. What one word needs to be changed? It was time for Bob to go home, so he checks for aliens. It was time for Bob to go home, so he checks for aliens. The word was is past tense, so that's correct. Which words here are not correct? It was time for Bob to go home, so he checks for aliens. The word checks is incorrect. It should not be checks. It should be past tense of checks, which changes it to checked with an ed at the underneath. There it is. Right. Last page. It's your turn now. Can you use one verb to complete what each alien is saying? Right. This alien is saying what they did yesterday. This alien is saying what they're doing today. So this one needs to be present tense. This alien needs to be past tense. So an example, this is my example that belongs to me. So I want to see different examples. Okay. So you could say, today I am painting painting. Lovely handwriting, Mr. Watkiss. Oh, thank you very much, everyone at home. Today, I am painting a picture. Yesterday, and how do I change the word painting to past tense? Well, I'm going to change it to painted. Yesterday, I painted a picture. Today, I am painting a picture. Yesterday, I painted a picture. It's your turn now. You just need to write one verb that's going to complete the sentences, and that's all your work for this lesson. Thank you very much, Vinci. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.